I think this is the moment when he realized that it's free to mind your own business, but fatal when you don't. Hey everyone, it's TJ from Every Story Begins With Us. I enjoy telling the stories of those little known people and their great big accomplishments from all over the world. I hope you enjoy these stories just like I do. And I may butcher a few names along the way. So here we go. Today, we are going to travel to the east to visit a set of islands that we call the Philippines. The Philippines is a tropical oasis, and like many tropical oases, these islands are lush and beautiful with unique wildlife, volcanoes, and beautiful waterfalls. But today's modern Philippines also has its metropolis. But we are going to travel back to the 1500s to meet the first hero warrior of the Philippines. His name is Lapulapu. Lapulapu was first recorded in history as Salapulapu. He was a datu, or what is known as a chief of Macatan in the Philippines. Not much is known about his life, who his parents were, where he was born, any significant events that occurred in his life. We don't know any of that information. Now, there are a few stories out there about where he came from. Some myth, some possibly has some truth to it, but the most probable of them all is that Lapu-Lapu was first recorded arriving from Borneo from the Sabah region. The ruler of Sugbo, now known as Cebu, was named Raja Humaban. And when Lapu-Lapu arrived from Borneo, he met the ruler of the area, Raja Humaban, and asked him for a place to settle. Humaban gave him the region of Mandawili, now known as Mandway. This also included the island of Opan. The king had hoped that by giving Lapu-Lapu and his people this land, that he would be able to cultivate it and turn it into something useful. Well, they did just that. They produced large amounts of farm produce, and this new influx of produce from this land given to Lapu-Lapu and his people enriched the trade port of Sugbo. Lapu-Lapu, though, in spite of his success in farming the land, turned to piracy and began raiding merchant ships passing the island of Opong. This affected trade in Sugbo. The island eventually earned the name of Mangatang, which means those who lie in wait. The name eventually evolved to Macatan. Now let's stop here for a minute because I want to take you to the country of Spain. The year is 1519, and an expedition of 5 ships have just set sail, with the captain Magellan heading this voyage. This expedition was heading to the East Indies across the Pacific Ocean with the purpose of opening a sea trade route for Spain. On March 16, 1521, Magellan saw mountains off in the distance, so they decided to set sail towards those mountains. These mountains sat on an island that we now call Samar. The next day, he and his men set anchor on the shores of Homenhan Island. Here, Magellan met Raja Colombo and Raja Siogu, and they guided him to Cebu, where he met Raja Humaban, the ruler. Now Humaban and his queen quickly, and it seems apparently without questions, accepted the Catholic faith and were baptized. And they took the Christian names Carlos and Juana. Now, to celebrate this event, Magellan held the first Mass on the coast and gave the Queen an image of infant Jesus. After this, Raja Humaban issued an order to all of the nearby chiefs to provide food supplies for Magellan's ships and to convert to Christianity. Most of the chiefs obeyed Humaban's orders, with the exception of Lapulapu. Now, one of the men who traveled on this voyage with Magellan was named Antonio Pigafetta. He was the voyage's chronicler. He was there to record the events as they occurred during that whole expedition. And he recorded the events from the encounters that they had with the natives of the Philippines as such. Macatan had two rulers at the time, Lapulapu and Zula. Now Zula accepted the orders from Humaban, and he tried to pay tribute to Magellan by sending his sons to give gifts. But Lapulapu was not having it, and he prevented them from continuing their journey to visit Magellan. He sent them back home. Lapulapu just completely and utterly refused to recognize Spain and Magellan. So basically, upon Magellan's arrival and his first meeting of the people, he immediately started evangelizing and pushing the Catholic Christianity religion on the people without there being any meeting among the leaders to decide on whether this is best for their people. And Lapulapu was very defiant and refused to listen and refused to comply. So Raja Humaban and Zula recommended to Magellan that he go to Macatan to force Lapulapu to comply. And Magellan foolishly agreed. So he traveled to Macatan. So it's now midnight on April 27th, 1521. Magellan led a force of 60 Spaniards and 20 to 30 warboats of Humaban's warriors from Cebu. And 3 hours before dawn, they arrived at Macatan. Now, because of the coral reefs and rock outcroppings, Magellan's ships could not land at the shore, so they had to anchor away from the beach. But when they got there, they saw about 1,500 warriors of Lapulapu there at the beach. They were armed with bows, bamboo spears, and iron swords. Magellan told Lapulapu that they would not attack if they swore allegiance to Raja Humaban and if they paid tribute to the Spanish king. But of course, Lapulapu rejected that. Now, when morning arrived, Magellan told Humaban's warriors to remain in their ships, and he took 49 heavily armored Spaniards to shore with him. Magellan and his men had to wade through the waters to get to the shore because of the fact that their ships had to set anchor further away due to all of the rocks. Once on shore, they set fire to some of the houses because they thought that this would scare the people. Wrong move. Lapulapu's warriors became enraged and charged Magellan, killing 2 Spaniards immediately. Magellan and his landing party found themselves surrounded and being attacked from the front and both sides. Now, for the most part, the Spaniards were protected because they wore heavy armor on their upper bodies, but their legs were exposed, and this would prove to be fatal. Magellan's men, who were back on the boat, were watching everything unfold, and they tried to help their comrades by firing their muskets and crossbows, but the distance from the boat to shore was just too far, and very little damage was being done to Lapulapu and his warriors. The distance also had another effect, and that is the fact that the men could not hear Magellan tell them to save their ammunition and stop firing. So these fools continued firing for half an hour until they exhausted all of their ammunition. Eventually, Magellan was hit through the leg with a poisonous arrow. He ordered a retreat. Most of his men followed his orders except a few who remained at his side to protect him. The natives at this point recognized that Magellan must be the leader, so he became the focus of the attack. I think this is the moment where Magellan realized that it's free to mind your own business, but fatal when you don't. So Lapulapu and his warriors charged the Spaniards. A large number of the warriors attacked Magellan, and he was wounded in the arm with a spear, and then in the leg with a large native sword called the campelan. The men who stood beside him were overpowered and killed. Others were hacked by swords and hit with spears. Lapulapu's warriors eventually overwhelmed Magellan and killed him. Pigafetta and a few others escaped back to the ship. Pigafetta recorded the events as he witnessed them, and he wrote that several of Magellan's men were killed in battle, as well as a number of the native converts who came to their aid. What's worse is Humabon and Zula watched the events unfold from a distance. Lapulapu's warriors took the body of Magellan and his men who they killed and carried them off. Now Humabon demanded that they give him the body of Magellan and the men, and he told them that he would give them whatever they wanted in abundance, but they outright refused to return the bodies. The Spaniards who managed to survive the battle and the other warriors of Humabon, they all returned back to Cebu, defeated and deflated. Now that Magellan is dead, the voyage has to have a new captain. So Juan Sebastian Elcano took over as the captain of this voyage, and Humabon decided to hold a feast for his guests. So here they are at this feast. They're eating, they're talking, maybe there's even a little laughter. Then suddenly the Spaniards realized they've been poisoned. Juan Sebastian Elcano ordered the immediate departure from the island after this betrayal by Humabon. Eventually, Lapulapu and Humabon would restore friendly relations after the Battle of Macatan. Lapulapu, later on in life, decided that he would return to Borneo with his family and 17 of his men. At this point, nothing further is known about his life. But what we do know is Lapulapu's act of defiance prevented the Philippines from being colonized at this time. The islands would later go on to be colonized by the Spaniards in 1565. Lapulapu became a legend and a myth among his people. And on April 27, 2017, President Duarte recognized him as the first hero of the Philippines. A statue was erected in his honor, and they renamed the town of Opon in Cebu to Lapulapu City. But in 2019, a fight to save the statue began. A small group of unknown people wanted to move it. We don't know who they were, and they did not specify what location it would be moved to. They just wanted to move the statue. The decision was made without consulting some of the members of the museum and even members of the city. So a petition was started to fight back and to save the statue. And as of October 2023, the statue will not be moved. So for now, the legacy of Lapulapu remains for his people to continue to honor. So guys, that's it for today's video. And as always, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment on what you think about today's story. I'll see you soon.